Welcome to today's lesson, students. I'm going to continue with the extra questions of grade 11, unit 9, heat. So this is extra question 12. Mass of an aluminium vessel is 150 grams. The vessel contains 250 grams of water at 30 degrees Celsius. The vessel was placed on a cooker and the water was brought to boiling. So when they say boiling, you all know at 180 atm pressure, normally the room pressure is 180 atm pressure. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. So the specific heat capacity of aluminium is given to you as 900 joule per kilogram per Kelvin, and specific heat capacity of water is 4200 joules per kilogram per Kelvin. So the first question. What is the amount of heat absorbed by the aluminium vessel? So, you all know the equation, students. What is that? Q equals mc theta. So, here we will be using the equation Q equals mc theta. What is m? Mass of the substance. C is the specific heat capacity and theta is the change in temperature. So, here if I calculate what is the amount of heat absorbed by the aluminium vessel. So, that is going to be Q. I will say aluminium. So, that is equal to mass of aluminium, that is 150 grams. But we have to divide it by 1000 so that we get it in kilograms into what is the specific heat capacity? 900 joule kilogram per Kelvin. Joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And theta. What is the final temperature? 100 degrees Celsius minus initial temperature 30 degrees Celsius. You all know when it comes to difference, Celsius and Kelvin are equal. So therefore, I'll use the unit as Kelvin. If we simplify this, we can simplify this first. So here you can see these two can be cancelled off. These two can be cancelled off. And then kilogram minus 1 and kilogram, Kelvin minus 1 and Kelvin. So then we will have the values as 15 into 9 into 100 minus 30. So that's going to be 70 joules. If we do the calculation, I will do it on this side. If we do the calculation, I will do it on this side. So here 15 into 9, that is going to be 135. Then if you multiply that by 70, it's again going to be 24. So 2, 7, 1, 7 and 2, 9. So 9450 is the amount of heat absorbed by the aluminium vessel. So we can write that down. 9450 joules. So you all know, students, Q equals mc theta. Mass is 150. You have to divide it by 1000 to convert it to kilograms. Specific heat capacity is 900 and the change in temperature 100 minus 30. So when we simplify, we get the values as 15 into 9 into 70 and we get the answer as 9450 joules. That is the amount of heat. Then for the next one, what is the amount of heat absorbed by water? So again we have to use the same equation. What do you need to write? Q, here I will write it as water to show that it's the heat absorbed by water. What is the mass of water? 250 grams. But we need to divide it by 1000 so that it becomes kilograms. And what is the specific heat capacity? 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. So 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And then theta, we have already calculated it as 70. So I will directly use the value as 70 kelvins, or else you can even substitute again as 100 minus 30. Still you will get the same value. We can simplify the values. So here you can see 0 and 0 can be cancelled off. These two zeros and these two zeros can be cancelled off. Kilogram, kilogram minus 1 and Kelvin minus 1 Kelvin. So from that, if we get the values, you will have 25 into 42 into 70. So if we are to simplify those values, I will do the calculation here. 25 into 42. So 2 into 5, 10. 2 into 2, 4 and 5. Then we have 4 into 5, 20. 2, 8, 10. So that is going to be 1050. When we multiply that by 70, we will get the answer as 0, 7 into 0, 0, 35, 3 and 7. So we get the answer as 73,500 joules. So I am sure you are very familiar with doing calculations. So you will be able to get the answer easily, 73,500 joules. So that is the amount of heat that is absorbed by water in order to increase the temperature from 30 degrees Celsius up to 100 degrees Celsius. That is the boiling point of water. So then we have the third question. What is the total amount of heat required to boil the water contained in the vessel? What is that amount? That is the amount of heat absorbed by the vessel as well as the amount of heat absorbed by water. So there, of course, in order to calculate the total amount of heat absorbed, or you can even say required, that is equal to heat absorbed by vessel plus heat absorbed by water. So we have already calculated both the values. What was the heat absorbed by water? That is 9,450 joules plus heat absorbed by water is 73,500 joules. So when you add them together, you get the value as 0, 5, 4 and 5, 9, then 9 and 3, 12, 1, 8. 82,950 joules. That is the heat that is required to increase the temperature of water that is present in an aluminium vessel from 30 degrees Celsius up to 100 degrees Celsius. That is the boiling point. So I am sure students, you also would have done this calculation correctly and got the same answer. So with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 30. There is 1 kilogram of ice at 0 degrees Celsius. So if you take the ice, there is 1 kilogram and the temperature is 0 degrees Celsius. Calculate the heat required to convert the ice to water at 50 degrees Celsius. So when we have ice here at 0 degrees Celsius, when you supply heat, what will happen first? 0 degrees Celsius is the melting point of ice. So first it will absorb latent heat and it will become water at 0 degrees Celsius. So that is also going to be at 0 degrees Celsius. So this is when you provide heat. Then you need to increase the temperature of water up to 50 degrees Celsius. Thereafter again you need to provide heat. Then you will get water at 50 degrees Celsius. So first we need to provide the heat, but there will be no change in temperature. Latent heat will be absorbed and ice will melt to form water at 0 degrees Celsius. Thereafter, when we supply heat, heat is absorbed and the temperature of water increases up to 50 degrees Celsius. So, we will have to calculate this amount of heat. I'll write it as Q1 and this as Q2. So, we will need to calculate both Q1 and Q2, and if we add them together, we will find the amount of heat or heat required to convert the ice to water at 50 degrees Celsius. Specific latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.36 into 10 to the power of 5 joules, and the specific heat capacity of water is 4200 joules per kilogram per Kelvin. So, there we are given the values that we need to calculate the amount of heat. So, initially Q1 is going to be what? The mass of ice, that is already given to you as kilograms. So, mass of ice into specific latent heat of fusion. So, what is the mass? It is 1 kilogram and the specific latent heat of fusion 3.36 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. It would be per kilogram. So, there kilogram and kilogram minus 1 will get cancelled off. So, you will get the amount of heat as 3.36 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. That is the amount of heat needed to melt 1 kilogram ice to 1 kilogram of water. You don't have to even write this way. You all know the definition. The amount of heat required to convert 1 kilogram of a solid substance at its melting point into the same amount of the liquid substance is known as the specific latent heat of fusion. So, since that is given to you, you all know to convert 1 kilogram ice to 1 kilogram of water at 0 degrees Celsius, we need this amount of heat. So, that is given to you. So, then we have to find the amount of heat that is needed to increase the temperature up to 50 degrees Celsius. So, that is going to be Q2, that is mc theta. So, again, what is mass? 1 kilogram. You all are familiar with the specific heat capacity, 4200 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. And here, what is the change in temperature? Final temperature is 50 degrees Celsius, initially 0, and we can write it in Kelvins. So, since this is given in Kelvins, I am using the Kelvin for temperature. If this was in degrees Celsius, we can use the difference in degrees Celsius. So, if we simplify the values here again, we actually can just cancel off Kelvin minus 1 Kelvin and kilogram minus 1 kilogram. So, we have the values 4200 into 50 joules. When you multiply 4200 by 50, you get the answer as 0, 0, 2 into 5, 10 and 4 into 5, 20. So, it's going to be 21, 210,000 joules. That is the amount of heat needed to increase the temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. But here, the question was to calculate the heat required to convert the ice to water at 50 degrees Celsius. So, we need to add the two values. So, heat required to convert the ice at 0 degrees Celsius to water at 50 degrees Celsius. So to find that, what do we need to do? We need to add the two values. So you can see there 3.36 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. That is for the melting of ice. And then we have 210,000 joules to convert water to 50 degrees Celsius. So since this is given as a power value, we can convert it to 336,000 joules because there is 10 to the power of 5, 3.36 becomes 336,000 joules. I am sure you are very familiar with that. And 210,000 joules. So if we add them together, we get the value as 546,000 joules. So that is the total amount of heat. Or we can even rewrite this as 5.46 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. So here also, students, instead of converting this to 336,000, you could have even converted this to 2.1 into 10 to the power of 5. So you have the 10 to the power of 5 as the common factor, and you can add the two values. You will get the answer as 5.46 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. So that is the total amount of energy or the heat required to convert the ice at 0 degrees Celsius to water at 50 degrees Celsius. And that is 1 kilogram of ice. If we go back and quickly check the calculation which we did before. So here the values were given to you. Convert the ice at 0 degrees Celsius to water at 50 degrees Celsius. So you all know initially there is a state change and there is absorption of heat to increase the temperature after that. So first we found the amount of heat that is needed to convert the ice to water, that is equal to the specific latent heat of fusion because it is 1 kilogram of ice. So then we calculated the amount of heat needed to increase the temperature up to 50 degrees Celsius and we got the value as 210,000 joules. So finally, to find the heat required to convert ice at 0 degrees Celsius to water at 50 degrees Celsius, we added up the two values and we found the total amount of heat required as 546,000 joules or 5.46 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. There is another method that you all are familiar with. We can also write this as 546 kilojoules. Either answer is fine. So in an MCQ, students, it depends on how they give you the units. You need to find the answer, but when you all do it for paper 2, you can leave it in any value. Either 546,000 joules or 5.46 into 10 to the power of 5 joules or 546 kilojoules. All of them correspond to the same value. So with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 14. There are different types of thermometers used in our day-to-day life. Write 2 reasons for mercury being used commonly in thermometers. What are the reasons? You all can remember mercury is a very good thermal conductor. That is one reason. So it can easily conduct heat and also it has a uniform expansion over a broad range of temperature. So that means if there is a change in temperature, say between 10 degrees Celsius to 15 degrees Celsius, there will be an increase by the increase in the volume. That is same as if there is a change from 100 degrees Celsius to 105 degrees Celsius. The volume change will be the same. So that is what we call as uniform expansion over a broad range of temperature. And you all know when we say broad range of temperature, it starts from minus 39 degrees Celsius and the boiling point is 357 degrees Celsius. So it is a very broad range. over that range, mercury is a liquid. It is a metal but in the liquid state. So because of all these, it's very, very useful to use mercury commonly in thermometers. But at the same time, students, you all know mercury is poisonous. Because of that, the use of mercury has decreased over the years. And in recent years, we either go for alcohol thermometers or the digital thermometers. So here the question is to write two reasons for mercury being used commonly in thermometers. So I will write, it is a very good thermal conductor or you can say it is a good conductor of heat, and you can say it shows uniform thermal expansion over a wide range of temperature. So I have written two reasons. You can also include that the temperature range at which mercury exists as a liquid is also a very broad range. So any two reasons can be given there. It is a very good thermal conductor. It shows uniform thermal expansion over a wide range of temperature. Then we have the second question. Ethanol is a suitable liquid for thermometers. Why? Why is ethanol suitable? Again, a similar reason. It shows uniform expansion, that is uniform thermal expansion over a broad range of temperature, and also, but compared to mercury, the range is not that broad, because you all know alcohol has a boiling point of around 78 degrees Celsius. So we cannot use it to measure very high temperatures. But still it shows uniform expansion throughout that temperature range. And also it is a very good conductor of heat. So again we have the same reasons. It is a good conductor of heat, or you can say a good thermal conductor. And then it shows uniform thermal expansion with increase in temperature. So these are two reasons why ethanol is a suitable liquid for thermometers. So if we use ethanol, we call it the glass alcohol thermometer, and if we use mercury, we call it the glass mercury thermometer. And you all know when we use alcohol as the liquid for the thermometer, since it is a colorless liquid, you have to add a color so that it is easy to get the temperature reading. So the reason why it is suitable as a liquid for thermometers is that it is a good conductor of heat, or you can say it is a good thermal conductor, and also it shows uniform thermal expansion with increase in temperature. So due to these two reasons, it is a suitable liquid. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. Write examples for thermometer in which the temperature can be read directly. So you're familiar with the different types of thermometers. Now all these, the glass mercury thermometer, glass alcohol thermometer, you cannot get the direct temperature reading. You have to measure the temperature, you have to look at the scale, rise in mercury or rise in alcohol, you have to read the temperature. But even the clinical thermometer or the medical thermometer, that is also a glass mercury thermometer. So there also you take the body temperature of a person, you have to look at the scale and get the reading. But you all are familiar with the digital thermometer and the non-contact infrared thermometer. So in these two, you get the digital reading. The digital thermometer is a clinical thermometer, but it gives the reading as a digital value. The same way, non-contact IR thermometer also gives you the direct reading. So in both these, what is the quantity that is used to read the temperature? It is the resistance that changes with temperature is used to calculate the temperature of the object or the body temperature. But here the question is, write examples for thermometer in which the temperature can be read directly. So if we write the examples, we will be writing the digital thermometer, and then you have the non-contact infrared thermometer. Non-contact infrared thermometer, or you can even write it as IR thermometer. So either one is correct. Since they have asked write examples, I have written both the examples. I am sure you were also able to write all these answers correctly. So with that, students, I am going to move on to the next question. Extra question 50. A polystyrene cup with 200 grams of water is heated by a thermocoil as shown in the diagram. Specific heat capacity of water is 4200 joule per kilogram per degree Celsius. So here you can see it is the picture given to you. Can you all identify all the components there? So you can see this is the vessel. You can see it here, students. This is the vessel. Then you can see this is the thermometer. Thermometer to read the temperature. Then we have the stirrer here. You all know the function of the stirrer. What is it? Always we have to keep on mixing the solution so that the heat gets distributed evenly and you get the correct uniform or even temperature, as the temperature will be even throughout the solution. Then what do you have here? This is what they have said as thermocoil. Thermocoil, or what we can call as heating coil. This is similar to immersion heater. You all can remember, students, normally immersion heaters are made up of nichrome metal. Nichrome is a metal alloy made up of nickel and chromium. So that usually has a very high resistance. You have discussed that with electricity. You all know it has a very high resistance. So because of that, it generates lot of heat. Nichrome is the common metal alloy that is used to make these thermocoils or the heating coils. So these are the things that are shown in the diagram, and here this is water. So then if we look at the questions, you can see, find the quantity of heat required to increase the temperature from 30 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. So that is the first question. So you're familiar with the calculation. We need to find the heat, that is equal to Q. Q is equal to mc theta. So what is the amount of heat? Now they have said the mass of water is 200 grams. So 200 divided by 1000, that will be in kilograms. And what is the specific heat capacity? 4200 joule per kilogram per degrees Celsius. And we need to multiply that by the temperature change. What is the temperature change? From 30 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius. So it is going to be 100 minus 30 degrees Celsius. So if we do the calculation there, you all can see 200 zeros can be cancelled off. Here again 0, and I can cancel off this 0. So we will get the values as 2 into 420 into 100 minus 30, 70. That is going to be in joules by kilogram. Kilogram minus 1 cancels off. Degree Celsius minus 1 and degree Celsius cancels off. So you get the value in joules. So that is equal to, if we simplify the values, 420 into 2, it's going to be 840 into 70, 4 into 7, 28, 56, 58. So it's going to be 58,800 joules. So 58,800 joules. That is the amount of heat that is needed to increase the temperature from 30 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. So the same equation, Q equals mc theta, mass is in grams, so you convert it to kilograms dividing by 1000, and then specific heat capacity 4200, change in temperature 100 minus 30, final minus initial. So when we simplify, we get the values as 2 into 420 into 70. The answer is 58,800 joules. So I am sure students, you would have got this calculation correctly. With that, I will move on to the next part of the question. Although the current was passing through the coil, the temperature of water did not change after it reached 100 degrees Celsius. What is the reason for this observation? I am sure you all know the reason for this observation. What is it, students? The temperature, that is 100 degrees Celsius, is the boiling point of water. So at the boiling point, you need to provide heat. Water becomes water vapor, that is from the liquid state, it's converted to its gaseous state. So where does that heat go, or for what is the heat used? The heat is used to break the intermolecular bonds present between water molecules in order to convert it to water vapor, that is water molecules in the gaseous state. So therefore, there will be no change in temperature. And what do we call that? That is the latent heat. So since it is at the boiling point, we call it latent heat of vaporization. So that is the reason we need to supply heat. It is absorbed as latent heat, but there will be no change in temperature. That is when there is a state change. So that is what you have to write here. Although the current was passing through the coil, the temperature of water did not change after it reached 100 degrees Celsius. What is the reason? So we can say 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water. So you all know when we say boiling point, it has to be at 1 atmospheric pressure. So here they haven't mentioned, but you all can assume that normally the room pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure. We take it as boiling point of water at 1 atm pressure. So here you can say the heat supplied is absorbed by water as latent heat of vaporization This is used to break the intermolecular bonds between water. Therefore, it does not lead to increase in temperature but causes state change from liquid to gas. So that gives you a complete answer. 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water. The heat supplied is absorbed by water as the latent heat of vaporization. This is used to break the intermolecular bonds between water molecules. Therefore, it does not lead to increase in temperature but causes state change from liquid to gas. So here it is the intermolecular bonds between water. It is better if you can write it as water molecules also. Then the next one, that is part 3. If heat is supplied continuously to water while it remains at 100 degrees Celsius, calculate the heat absorbed by water for the change you mentioned in part 2 above. So you all know what will happen in part 2 above. There will be state change. At the boiling point, water will boil and it will become water vapor. So until all the water is converted to water vapor, there will be no change in temperature. That is what we call as specific latent heat of vaporization. If it is 1 kilogram of water, that is going to absorb the heat. So here for this you will need to calculate the amount of heat that is absorbed. To do that you need the specific latent heat of vaporization. That is equal to 2.26 into 10 to the power of 6 joules. That is for 1 kilogram of water. So it will be joules per kilogram for 1 kilogram of water. If we use that value and if we calculate the heat required to boil water and convert it to water vapor, that will be equal to specific latent heat of vaporization into the mass of water, because specific latent heat of vaporization is given for 1 kilogram of water. If the mass is different, you have to multiply by mass. That has to be in kilograms and this will have the value joules per kilogram. And you all know students, you don't have to memorize the values for specific latent heat, all those will be given to you in your question paper to do the calculation. So here, if I go back to the question and check the amount, the mass of water that was given to us with the question. So I will go back to the previous slide. Here you can see it is 200 gram of water. So then to do this calculation, we have the specific latent heat of vaporization, that is 2.26 into 10 to the power of 6 joules per kilogram, and that is multiplied by 200 divided by 1000 kilogram. So here again we can simplify the units. Again there is a 10, so that will be equal to 2 into 2.26, 12, 5, 4, 4.52 into 10 to the power of 6 divided by 10. So here you will get the answer as 4.52 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. So as you know students, you can leave it this way. Otherwise, you can convert it to joules, 452,000 joules. You can write it that way also. So as I told you all before, if it was MCQ, depending on how they give you the answer, you might have to do the proper conversion. But here you can leave it at this standard formation also. That is the scientific notation, 4.52 into 10 to the power of 5 joules. So you can leave it that way, or you can convert it and write it this way. Or else you can write it as kilojoules also. So either way, you will get the same answer. We needed to calculate the amount of heat that is needed to convert 200 grams of water at its boiling point to 200 grams of steam. So to do that, we multiplied the specific latent heat of vaporization by the mass of water. So there we had this value 2.26 into 10 to the power of 6 joules per kilogram. That is the specific latent heat of vaporization. And you have to multiply by mass, that is 200 divided by 1000. So then you get the value as this, 4.52 into 10 to the power of 5 joules, or 452,000 joules. So here students, the main thing is you need to understand the concept. You have to identify what is happening, whether it's a state change or an increase in temperature. Accordingly, you have to use the equation. If it was increase in temperature, we use Q equals mc theta. If it is a state change, you have to multiply the latent heat by the amount of substance there. So then you will get the required heat. So I am sure you have understood this question and did the calculation correctly. So with that students, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 16. What is the name given to the constant temperatures that are used to calibrate thermometers? So you are familiar with this technique students. We use the melting point of ice at 1 atmospheric pressure, that is 0 degrees Celsius, and then the boiling point of water 100 degrees Celsius, that again at 1 atm pressure, because those values are easily obtainable and also they are constant temperatures. And what do we call those values? Those are the fixed point temperatures or fixed points. The melting point of ice is the lower fixed point and the boiling point of water is the higher fixed point. So here the question is, what is the name given to the constant temperatures that are used to calibrate thermometers? They are called the fixed points. Fixed points. Then the second question. How many divisions are there between the two temperature values mentioned above in the Celsius scale? So in all the scales, we can measure these two temperatures, but they differ depending on the scale. And according to the Celsius scale, I told you all the two fixed values are 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius. So what is the division here, or the number of divisions? There are 100 divisions. So that is the question here. How many divisions are there between the two temperature values mentioned above in the Celsius scale? So you have to say 100 divisions. Then, if we look at the next question, what is the melting temperature of ice in Fahrenheit? Now, you can remember Celsius scale and Fahrenheit scale, they are different values. In Fahrenheit scale, the temperature, that is the melting point of ice, is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you can remember, 212 degrees Fahrenheit is the boiling point of water. So there what happens? How many divisions are there? Unlike in Celsius, if you subtract, actually it should be 212 minus 32, there are 180 divisions. So there will be 180 divisions. What is the melting temperature of ice in Fahrenheit scale? So that is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And the fourth part, what is the boiling temperature of water in Fahrenheit scale? So what is the boiling point of water? 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So those are the answers for these questions. If I go back, what is the name given to the constant temperatures that are used to calibrate thermometers? They are known as fixed point. And in Celsius scale, how many divisions are there between the temperature values mentioned above in the Celsius scale? There are 100 divisions. And what is the melting temperature of ice in Fahrenheit scale? 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And what is the boiling temperature of water in Fahrenheit scale? That is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So I am sure you also can remember all these values, students, and you have answered them correctly. So with that, I have come to the end of this chapter, but I have not completed all the extra questions. I will discuss some more extra questions with you all in the next chapter as well.